Salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, all that good stuff. I'm joined in studio today by our technical director, Jonathan Voico.
Hello, hello.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer-Burnett.
Amaze.
And most importantly, of course, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, the most important, is when we take your topics and questions. If you guys have a thought, theory, opinion, or question you'd like us to address on the show, you have two ways to send it in. First way is if you're not watching the show live, you're watching the show a little bit later in the day, like most people do, you can use our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip to send in a question that we'll address on the next episode. Or if you are watching this show live, and hello to everybody who's watching us live, you can use the super chat feature in the live chat, and we'll get around to answering those questions at the end of this episode. Either way, as long as you send in a topic or question that we deem appropriate to be addressed on the show, we do reserve the right to not address any questions or comments that come in that we don't think is appropriate for the show, but you will hear it answered in the second part of the show. Little side note, I'm doing something I've never done before. I'm going to Paley Fest tonight.
Wow.
Paley Fest is this, I don't know much about it. I just always heard of it. It was just every year they get like 5 to 10 of the biggest shows in the world and they do panels with all of them. Well, anyway, tonight in LA, I believe it's at the Dolby Theater where they hold the Oscars.
Yeah.
They're doing Shrinking tonight. One of my favorite shows on TV. And the whole cast is going to be there, including Seagal, Harrison Ford, Brent Goldstein's going to be there. The whole cast is going to be there. It's one of our favorite shows. So Ann and I are going to go to that tonight, which I'm very excited about. I'm really stoked to see that one.
Cool.
All right, guys. With that all down, let's get things started here, shall we? We're going to start off with this. World peace, good homes for orphan puppies. These are things that everybody in the world wants. And you can include on that list a She-Hulk Season 2. Something everybody wants. And everybody around the world has agreed upon in unison they want.
I would actually take that over the Shelter for Puppies.
Yeah, absolutely. I would take She-Hulk over Safety for Puppies. Yeah, but maybe not. She-Hulk was a show that I was really excited about. And I don't know if there was another Marvel Disney Plus show that disappointed me more than She-Hulk. And the funny thing is it had potential. And you could see in it, there were elements there that they could have done well. But it just, to me, it was the great sin. Trying to be a comedy while absolutely failing at being funny. It was a hard show to watch and all that kind of stuff. But they never ruled out doing a second season. And now Marvel and their head of streaming and TV and animation, Brad Winderbaum, he just kind of implied that we may actually get a She-Hulk Season 2. He said this is coming out to us from Comic Book Movie, wrote, Brad Winderbaum, the head of streaming, television and animation at Marvel Studios, recently sat down with the Escape Pod and made some startling admission about She-Hulk Attorney at Law. He said, I love She-Hulk. I'd love to make more She-Hulk. He stated before adding, I mean, I'll tell you this about She-Hulk. That was one of our best performing shows. It just hit the general audience. And later in the interview, he specified, it didn't land with a lot of the fans. He said, but it really landed with the general audience, he said. He then goes on to say, I would love the opportunity to make more She-Hulk. Honestly, hopefully one day, maybe. Winderbaum continued, hinting that perhaps we all haven't seen the last of his favorite Avenger after all. Okay. I have always stated and said that I have two seemingly diametrically opposed viewpoints in one head. On the one hand, I was insufferably disappointed with the She-Hulk series. I mean, Tatiana Maslany was perfect for the role. They had moments that were pretty good. Actually, some straight up The Daredevil doing the walk of shame is still one of the greatest things I've ever seen on TV, and I will argue that to the day I die. I laughed my ass off on
Madison.
that. What's that? Madison. Yes. Yes, the Madison Wong stuff. That was good. I'll give credit where it's due. That was good. It had elements, but overall, insufferably disappointed with the show. But at the same time, I have always felt that I would be open to a season 2 if they could identify what didn't work, recognize where they fell short, and make the show that it always had the promise of being. Because Rob, I think you and I both, like when the show was first coming up, you and I were both loved the idea
I was very
about
excited.
an Ally McBeal legal procedural in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with She-Hulk at the center. Good comedy done well, if you could do that right, it could be a really special, different kind of show for Marvel. They squandered all that potential. But I've always kind of been of the mind that even though they swung and missed, I actually wouldn't mind seeing them taking another crack at it if they could do it right. So will it happen? I don't know, man. The guy who's in charge of all that sounds pretty positive on it. I don't mean positive that's happening, but very pro about it. And he says he'd like to do it. And he's the guy who's going to make the decision about it. I'd give it a 50-50 chance that it happens. But I'll just say this. As somebody who, like many of you, did not like season 1, sign me up as being somebody who I would absolutely be intrigued to see them do a hopefully improved, like season 2 of Rings of Power was a significant improvement over season 1. Maybe they can do that with She-Hulk. And if they can, I want to see it. Anyway, Rob, you hear this. Number one, would you want to see, or would you be interested in seeing them trying a second season of She-Hulk? And then listening to his comments, do you believe there will or won't be? What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, I was watching Wonder Man.
Oh,
and
so good.
I'm thinking to myself, here is a show that is built on a relationship with this crazy character that was introduced in Iron Man 3, Trevor Slattery. And we have a new character, Wonder Man. And the writing on that show, it's like they knew what they were making.
Yeah.
The writing staff knew the assignment. And that's true of any TV show. Any TV show lives and dies by its writing staff. I don't think the writing staff of She-Hulk had any clue as to what they were doing. They kind of understood it, but nobody was on the same page. They had from episode to episode, it was all over the place.
It never felt fluid.
No, and it was just, a She-Hulk show could be great. Tatiana Maslany was great in the show.
Absolutely. She was not the problem.
They had all of these funny elements. I mean, first of all, you have a show where the idea is built in, how does our legal system deal with the problems that arise when metahumans are running around the world?
Yes, that's the show I wanted.
And at the same time, you have a metahuman herself who's become the legal face of all this, and she also wants to lead an ordinary life.
Yeah, her struggles of living now with what she's become in the type of world she's in. 100%.
I mean, that's your show. And when you look at a show like Wonder Man, they really had a handle on what it was they wanted to do. I mean, they never lost sight of the fact that these guys were actors, man. They were trying to get a part in a film, and all of that, and navigating Los Angeles and doing all of this. This is what great writers do. They understand their shows. And look, they're servicing the premise and the characters. There shouldn't be anything beyond that. And, one of the things that we forget as fans is it doesn't surprise me that somebody said that the head of programming or whatever said that that general audience is tuned in, because you didn't have to be, the promise was you didn't have to know everything about the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And I'll give it that.
But the problem was it didn't succeed. They just didn't deliver. And John, I would like to see a She-Hulk show that worked.
Yeah.
I look at these things as, I've been reading comics for the better part of 50 years. And sometimes a writer's run on a comic and an artist is classic. You remember forever. And then when they leave, a new writer-artist team comes on and they just suck.
Just like filler. It's like, oh, what are
you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this gobbledygook? And then a new writer and artist team come on and take up the mantle and turn any superheroes, one good writing team, a writer and artist team away from a classic run. There's no reason why they can't do another season of She-Hulk and just make it like, and call it something like She-Hulk Born Again, whatever. I mean, call it anything you want, but give it a subtitle and do a soft reboot and do the story, the show you should have done from the beginning.
Because at the heart of it, I think you can to me, at least anyway, the problem with She-Hulk was that you had a writer's room writing a legal procedural comedy that neither understood legal procedural and certainly didn't understand comedy. You get a new, fresh writer's room in there, you could have something that really works, but we'll have to see. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Brad Winterbaum, the head of Marvel Streaming, is saying he would actually like to go back and revisit She-Hulk, and he's saying with the possibility of them actually doing a season 2, maybe. Listen, I'd be totally down for it as much as I didn't like season 1. Anyway, whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Moving from some superhero television that has not worked for me, on to superhero television that certainly has, and maybe the best that it's ever been done. The Boys. The Boys season, I was going to say season finale, but the final season. The final season of The Boys starts tomorrow. 2 episodes are dropping, and this to me has simply been, as a series as a whole, the gold standard of superhero television. Like, I've loved Peacemaker, and Penguin was next level, but it was 1 season so far. The Boys, for 4 seasons, has just delivered. For everything from great observations about the comic book genre itself, our introspection about the nature of heroes in general, not just super, the type of corruption that can come within and without with power, socio observations about our own world and culture. I mean, it's and just absolutely over the top, wild, gross you out, like stuff all wrapped into one glorious, juicy, delicious package. I have loved this show from episode 1, scene 1, right up until the end of season 4. And now we're moving into the finale. A finale that we've been told by Carl Urban is gangbusters all the way, foot to the floor, and a lot of deaths starting right from the first episode. Well, with that starting tomorrow, the reviews are now out for The Boys season 5. The critics who have been allowed to see the show. Now, if I'm understanding it right, the only thing the critics weren't allowed to see was the finale, was the last episode. If I'm understanding that right. As of right now, it might change tomorrow, but as of this moment, The Boys season 5 is holding a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it should be noted, a couple of the critics I know had negative reviews for either season 3 or season 4 and actually really loved this season. Let's go over and take a look at what some of the critics are saying about The Boys season 5. Zach Pope writes, easily the darkest and most emotionally gripping the series has ever been. If this is the final chapter, it's shaping up to be everything I've loved about the show from the start, maybe even more. And Kimiko, absolutely stand out. That caught me off guard in the trailer when you saw her speak. Wait, you talk now? Grace Randolph wrote, it doesn't really feel like the final season until we hit episode 5. But this is an excellent and bold show. It's a shame Amazon couldn't give them the budget for a splashy ending. But this quieter ending is very emotional, hard to say goodbye. CBR, Comic Book Resources, wrote, The Boys' final season resembles America at present more than any other season, creating a grim story that is equally ridiculous and brilliant. Collider wrote, although The Boys season 4 was where the plot began to stretch thin, season 5 is a satisfying culmination of Kripke's irreverent superhero saga. The Daily Beast wrote, soars wildly to the finish line, its confidence only matched by its craziness. Polygon wrote, the evolution of Colby's character, who provides some of The Boys' most absurd and entertaining moments that I won't spoil here, is proof of the value in letting a TV show mature over time. And then we'll end off with Gold Belt Media, who wrote, a fearless final chapter that blends chaos, cultural commentary, and character into one of the most impactful seasons of the series. And it just goes on from there. So, it's hard to believe that as we start season 5, that we're actually on 5 seasons. It honestly, to me, feels like a year or two ago that we were watching The Boys season 1. That first episode where Huey's on the street with his girlfriend and out of nowhere, a soup just runs right through her. And just immediately in that one moment, you understood as the audience member, the world that The Boys lives in. Or I think it was that same season, it was either that or season 1, but I think it was season 1, not season 2, but the airplane scene is still right now one of my top 10 favorite scenes in any television show ever. When Queen Maeve and I almost said Highlander, Homelander are on the plane and they realize this plane's going down. And the choice that got made that I'm not going to just save a couple of people because then word will get out what happened here. And so, sorry. And it's hard for a narrative written show to make me feel such despair. I can feel it a lot watching documentaries or like true life stories, but watching like narrative written stuff, it's difficult for me to feel despair. And I remember that airplane scene, man, the despair that I felt for everybody on the plane. Like, it's just that's special television when you can do that. At some point, though, the story has to end. You can't just go on and inevitably on and on and on with what's going on with Homelander. And so we're getting now to the conclusion. And we simply do not know because this show has deviated so much from the comics that we honestly really have no idea how it's going to end. Spoiler alert, Black Noir is not a Homelander clone. That was the big twist in the comics. And they're clearly not doing that here. So I don't know where they're going. All I know is that I don't want the ride to end, but I can't wait for the ending of the ride. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to watching the first 2 episodes tomorrow. Anyway, Rob, you're hearing these reviews. What's standing out to you?
Well, I mean, I love this show too, and I can't wait to see where this is going to go. Is Homelander going to get his comeuppance? Is the world going to fundamentally change? Is everybody going to get Compound V? I don't know. But I look forward to this. I mean, Anthony Starr. This is one of the great characters that's ever been on TV, Homelander and his performance. And I just, every time he's on screen, I just look at him and go, what's it like to be, does he go to bed and does he sleep well at night after playing this character? I mean, he's so great in it. He was great in Banshee too.
I never watched Banshee.
Yeah, he was good. I'm a big fan and I'm going to miss this show. I mean, there's an argument that could be made that this is the best superhero TV series ever, just because of what it deals with.
I believe it. I believe it is the best. Now let's see what happens if Penguin gets a season 2. But yeah, I think it's the best superhero series we've ever had. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The reviews for The Boys season 5 are, out of this world right now. I still can't believe this is the final season. Anyway, whatever you guys thought about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? We all know that an X-Men movie is coming. We don't know exactly when. It'll be sometime after Secret Wars. And we know that the director for the Thunderbolts is going to be directing it. Now, the film project has had a film writer, but apparently they have new writers writing a new draft of the script. And both of them are Emmy winners that are doing it. This comes to us from the folks over at Dark Horizons, interviewing the director of X-Men. He wrote this: "We're still developing. One of the exciting things that's tying into Beef. Of course, we got Beef season 2. Is that Lee Sung-jin and Joanna Callow both worked on this season. Obviously, I mean, Beef is Sony's show, and Joanna worked on this season as well. Was the writer and showrunner of The Bear, the award-winning show The Bear as well. and we worked together on season 1 of Beef and on Thunderbolts. They have come in and are working on a draft talking about X-Men right now, which is really exciting to be able to put that group of people together again. When you go back and read X-Men comics, there's ideology, but there's also interpersonal drama, almost a soap opera quality. Having writers who understand both how to drive ideology from personal stakes, if we get that right, that's what will feel most honest to what X-Men can be. Which, hot damn, this is a director who gets X-Men, number 1. But number 2, a few moments ago, for those of you watching the segment later on, a little bit earlier in the full live show, we were talking about She-Hulk, and ultimately the failure of She-Hulk came from the writer's room. You are talking about an Emmy winner who won Best Writing at the Emmys for Beef, and an Emmy winner who's also producer and the writer of a show that won Best Series with The Bear, at least won Best Comedy Series, even though it's not a comedy. Anyway, at the Emmys, you're talking about 2 Emmy-winning writers, producers, and showrunners now are coming in together to write X-Men. My mouth is watering at that thought. Like, the number one thing I look for is who's directing the film, right? That's always big. And I'm super thrilled with who they got to direct, because I thought what this guy did with Thunderbolts was next level. I thought it was incredible what he did with Thunderbolts. Next thing I'm looking at is who's writing it. And you literally can't get much better. It's like, I don't know. You got Emmys on your resume? You got Emmys on your, what? You guys did Beef and you did The Bear, and okay, yeah, come on in. I tell you what, man, I haven't been giving a lot of thought to the X-Men movie, to be honest with you, because it's so far removed right now. The tangibilization isn't there. We still have like Doomsday to get through, and then we still got to get through Secret Wars. X-Men at this point to me is kind of like a far distant afterthought. But man, I'll tell you what, Rob, reading this morning that these two, with their boxes of Emmys in tow, are coming in to write this with a director who I already think is great. It's now got me thinking a little bit about X-Men and where it may go. A little bit of a bummer that maybe the drafts they've had up until this point haven't worked out or haven't been what they've wanted to do. But that's the great thing about having this much time, is they got plenty of time to get this thing exactly the way they want it. So I personally love this news. Anyway, Rob, you heard about this. What are your thoughts?
Well, again, you know, it's finding writers of this caliber is a good thing. I think, you know, X-Men is not, I've told people that for me, the way I love Star Trek, I love the X-Men. I've always loved the X-Men. I've loved the X-Men and X-Men and Teen Titans when I was, you know, in the 80s when I was in junior high school and started to really read comics again. I really love the X-Men, and I've been reading them since then. And to get it right is not an easy task.
No, everybody thinks it's easy. It's so hard to get X-Men
Yeah,
right.
you need to figure out. I mean, the animated series did a pretty good job of it, but they were also retelling famous comic book stories in their own
in a
their
very
own way.
turcated, like short kind of Twitter-like format.
Yeah. But creating, I mean, when Brian tackled X-Men, it was interesting using Rogue and Wolverine as your characters that you could go in. That was kind of your focus, you know, and that was a really good way to do it, because the audience kind of, believe it or not, saw things through Wolverine's eyes, you know, and you got to see. But starting from scratch and making the X-Men younger, which I think is a great idea, it's not an easy thing to do, because if you think about it, well, what do you do? How do you get it? And you still have to convince everybody that you can make these characters relatable and believable, so they don't come off as seeming, you know, too wacky or too strange or too. It's because it is a human story, even though they're mutants. It is all about interpersonal relationships, in addition to being super heroic and you're fighting evil mutants and you've got all the things there. It was really all about the relationships that the characters had. It was, like they mentioned in this article, like a soap opera, but it was a soap opera that felt real. And that's why I got into it, because all those characters were believable to me.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do, because you still have to make a film that's also an action-adventure superhero film about mutants. So And we've seen X-Men movies that are good and X-Men movies that aren't so good. So it's tough.
Yeah, and you know, good ones and bad ones made by some good filmmakers too.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult thing and kind of a weird tightrope to balance. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? We've got new writers for the upcoming X-Men movie. Oh, and they're award-winning creators, by the way, behind shows like Beef and The Bear. That's got a lot of people like me excited. Anyway, whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we thought we would take a moment here on this fine Tuesday to take a break and play ourselves a little game of what's more likely. How what's more likely works is real simple. I jumped on the YouTube channel a little bit earlier and I asked you guys to send in some what's more likely scenarios. You guys sent in a bunch. Jonathan's got a few picked out. So let's get to those right now, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
All right, Rob, what's more likely in this scenario? We're going to hear from JC. Black Panther 3 features a new T'Challa as a result of Secret Wars or continues with Shuri.
So I think that we're going to get a new Black Panther. You know, I think that we need a new Black Panther. Not that Shuri is not, but you know, Shuri was always kind of an interim stage anyway. I think I don't know if it's going to be, I would imagine it would be a new character, but as a result of Secret Wars, they could recast. It's T'Challa. The universe has changed. You start from scratch. It's easy to do. It's canonical, and it's not something people are going to shake their heads at. I think that we're going to get a new T'Challa, and that's going to post Secret Wars.
Yeah, and we should say here, we don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
We have no idea what they're going to do factually. But in terms of what's more likely, I believe it's infinitely more likely, like Rob does, that we're going to get a new T'Challa. Going with Shuri as Black Panther was a mistake. And I really don't care that, but John, in the comics, this is the movies, this isn't the comics. And the way the movies were set up, it was a mistake to have Shuri be the new Black Panther. I love the Shuri character, but she should not have been the Black Panther, like, at all. There were 3 other characters much better positioned in the movies to take on that responsibility. I mean, listen, Nakia should have been the new Black Panther. If not her, then Okoye should have been the new Black Panther.
Yeah.
And if not that,
I would have liked
then
that.
M'Baku.
Yeah.
The King M'Baku should have been the new anybody but the nerd girl who had no combat experience whatsoever. Never made any sense. It didn't work. It's not the actress's fault at all. But I think they have learned their lesson. And I don't just think we're getting a new Black Panther. I think we're getting a new T'Challa. I think we're going to get a new T'Challa, and which is, you know, my belief. I've always believed right from day one that the best way to honor what Chadwick Boseman did was to recast the role, to pick up the baton for him and carry it across the finish line. It's what they should have done from the beginning.
Well, I mean, with the universe being rebuilt from creation,
massive opportunity.
You can have a T'Chaka back. You could change the political structure of Wakanda. You could do whatever you want.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
All right, over to you, John. What's more likely here? We hear from Daniel Lane. Tom Cruise or Ryan Gosling to win an Oscar next?
Ooh. Okay, so who do I think is the better overall actor? I'm actually going to lean not towards my good Canadian kid Ryan Gosling, but rather to Tom Cruise. But I think it's more likely that Ryan Gosling gets an Oscar first, and I'll tell you why. Because right now, Ryan Gosling is doing Oscar kind of films. Yeah, he's doing Fall Guy and stuff, but he's also doing like real dramatic stuff that positions him better. Tom Cruise right now is in a position where he knows the years he has left to be a believable action star are limited. And it seems like right now, and this isn't a bad idea, it seems like right now he's really throwing himself into those things. Now, of course, we got Digger coming next year. Who knows what kind of film that's going to be.
Leo won an Oscar with Inarritu.
Yep, but we just don't know what kind of movie it's going to be. So, I mean, that's the wild card. But because right now it just seems like Ryan Gosling is doing more films that might position him for Oscars than Tom Cruise is, I will say it's more likely... Yeah, I'll stick with it. I'm going to say it's more likely Ryan Gosling gets one first. I don't know, Rob, what do you think?
I'm going to go the opposite way because I think...
Because of Digger?
Yes. I think that Tom Cruise, I don't, by the way, I know nothing. I know nothing.
Yeah, we know nothing.
I know nothing about Digger other than Alejandro Inarritu or what is directing it. But it just sounds so different from what Tom Cruise is doing. And I think there's a reason. Tom Cruise has always done a really good job picking collaborators and material. He's been off in Mission Impossible land, but when he wasn't, he was all, whether he worked with Spielberg, on a Minority Report, whether he worked with Rob Reiner doing A Few Good Men. He's got a great Oliver Stone, Born on the 4th of July. I mean, he's got a great track record.
Yeah.
Barry Levinson, Rain Man. So I think there's a reason why he decided to work with Inarritu, and I think that reason is because he wanted an Oscar caliber role. Paul Thomas Anderson for Magnolia.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what he was looking for, and I think we might see it. So I think that there is, without knowing anything, I think that Tom Cruise, if he's going to win an Oscar, he could win an Oscar this year for that movie. That's the only reason I would put him in front of Ryan Gosling.
All right. What's next?
All right, Rob. Next one up is this. Not an overreaction, but what's more likely? When we hear from the 885th Batman fan, James Gunn goes back to the MCU, or he goes to Sony's rebooted Spider-Verse of villains, anti-heroes.
What's more? Okay, of those two things, if I would say he would go back to the MCU. I mean, they did promise us another Star-Lord movie that we would see Star-Lord coming back. I mean, if James Gunn left the DCU, it makes sense to me that he would go back and do another Marvel movie. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, look, I am firmly of the belief, nobody's told me anything, and this is just me reading the tea leaves. I firmly believe James Gunn will not, I think he's going to pack his bags and leave when his contract ends. I don't think he wants anything to do with Paramount or the people there. Again, nobody's told me that. Let me just be clear. So I think he's going to pack his bags and go at the end of 2027, after he's got Man of Tomorrow all shot and filmed away and all that kind of stuff. If that happens, what's more likely? The Sony? Well, okay. What I would like to see happen is him go to Sony. I would love to see him go to Sony and hand him the keys to the Spider-Verse and actually make something there. Wouldn't it be lovely if we had not one, not two, but three healthy, active superhero cinematic universes all going at once? We've never had it. Never had it. And I would dare say that Sony probably needs him more. That said, what is more likely is that he goes back to Marvel. And I will tell you why. It is because it's the prodigal son returning. A lot of people forget that during that infamous period when Disney fired James Gunn, Kevin Feige had just kind of elevated him to kind of being the head of Marvel when it comes to the whole galactic side of things, right? So, and him, James Gunn and Kevin Feige are extremely tight. James Gunn has publicly said that the first person he called when he got the job to run DC was Kevin Feige. And Kevin Feige's talked a lot about that as well. But most importantly, you guys know that I believe that we are getting closer and closer to when Kevin Feige leaves to actually run an entire studio somewhere. He's going to be the head of a studio at somewhere, not just a sub studio like Marvel, a full studio. He's going to be the head of a studio somewhere. And when that happens, you need an heir apparent. Who better than James Gunn? Whether that's 3 years, 5 years, 7 years down the road. If James Gunn were to leave Warner Brothers, like I think he will when his contract's up, and he might not, but I think he will. I think he ends up at Marvel because Kevin trusts him. He's somebody who's actually got now resume experience running and revitalizing a cinematic universe like he's already done with DC. I would like to see him go to Sony, but I think where he ends up is over at Marvel. All right, what's next?
All right, let's see. Where are we? We're on this one. John is what's more likely here when we hear from Hijapiro. Edgar Wright directs a DC movie, or Zack Snyder directs a Marvel movie.
Well, look, it's kind of an unfair question because one is just a never going to happen situation. Marvel is never going to have Zack Snyder direct a movie. And it's not even really because, and I say this as a Zack Snyder fan, it's not because he can't make a good movie. I got a gentleman standing right behind me that proves he absolutely can. But the insufferable Snyder Bros have made Zack Snyder untouchable. You know, it reminds me, let me put this into a sports analogy, Rob. I think Tim Tebow was a better quarterback than people give him credit for. And he was certainly good enough to be a decent, reliable backup quarterback. But by the end of his career, nobody wanted to sign Tim Tebow. Not because they didn't think he could be a decent backup quarterback, but because they didn't want the circus that came along with him.
Right.
That every time your starting quarterback throws an incompletion, people in the crowd would be yelling, Tebow time! They just didn't want the circus. They didn't want the drama. Marvel wants nothing to do with the circus that comes through no fault of his own, through no fault of Zack Snyder's own. But Marvel, no studio wants anything to do with the circus parade that comes along with Zack Snyder, unfortunately. They don't want it. They're never going to touch it. So, that being said, James Gunn and Edgar Wright are friends. They love each other's work. We already know that Edgar Wright would totally love to do a comic book film. He was going to do Ant-Man at one point for Marvel. And so I think it is absolutely more likely that we would see Edgar Wright direct a film for DC, because you're never going to see Marvel. Now, if James Gunn goes to Marvel because the head, because him and Zack Snyder are tight, maybe James Gunn gives him a film to direct. But other than James Gunn giving Zack Snyder, I don't think Marvel ever wants to work with Zack Snyder. And again, I don't think that's Zack Snyder's fault. I think that's a circus that comes along with him. Anyway, Rob, what's more likely, Edgar Wright doing a DC film or Zack Snyder doing a Marvel film?
I think that Edgar Wright doing a DC film is much more likely than Zack Snyder doing a Marvel movie. You know, I'm a big fan of Edgar Wright's work, and I think that James Gunn's sensibility and Edgar Wright's filmmaking ability is a great fit. I mean, hell, I could see Edgar Wright directing a James Gunn script. You know, if they didn't they write their own stuff, but you know, they could do that too. I think the sensibility is there, and I would like to see, you know, they talk about how Edgar Wright was going to do Ant-Man and it didn't work out, but I would love to see, you know, an Edgar Wright take on a DC character, more of a, like, I could see they were going to do the New Gods at DC. It never got made, but I could see him doing like a Mr. Miracle movie. If someone said Edgar Wright's doing a Mr. Miracle movie, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'd love to see that. That'd be great. And so I'm going to say Edgar Wright. That's more likely.
All right. What's next?
All right, Rob, we're going to go back to you now. It's more likely here, and we hear from Jaspreet. Odyssey makes more than Dune 3 or vice versa?
That's a tough one. I'm going to go with, I think that Dune 3 is going to make more money than the Odyssey, but it's definitely going to be a horse race. But I say this because the jury is out on the Odyssey with me. I don't think the Odyssey is necessarily a slam dunk. I keep thinking Tenet. You know, I know Tenet was the pandemic, and I know Christopher Nolan, you know, he hits most of the time. But I think this is a bit of a stretch. So I'm going to say that I think it's more likely Dune 3, that people have been waiting for this. You know, the level of interest in Dune is built up over the years. And I think Dune 3 is going to be really spectacularly successful, even in terms of what it is.
Right.
Like, I don't think it's going to make $2 billion, but the Dune movies, I could see it approaching $1 billion. So I'm going to say it's going to outgross Odyssey.
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite of you on that. Like, the one I'm more looking forward to is Dune 3, although I am crazy excited for Odyssey. But Dune 3 is my most anticipated movie of the year. But you know me, it's not a 4-quadrant film. I said this since before the first Dune came out. It's not a movie that's going to be $1 billion franchise. I think Dune 3 has a chance maybe at $1 billion, but I really don't see it making $1 billion. I see it being, like you said, extremely successful for what it is. Yeah. I think it's going to make more than the last one. But if Christopher Nolan can take a period piece biopic and have it come this close to making $1 billion.
I see Oppenheimer.
My target for Odyssey is $1 billion. It might come in a little under, but I could see it doing $1 billion or more. And because now he's gone into the much more popular sword and sandal fantasy kind of film, I just can't. I would love it if Dune 3 makes more than it. I would love that, but I just don't see it happening. So I'm going to say personally, it is more likely that the Odyssey ends up making more. And all right, guys, that will wrap up today's session of What's More Likely. Thank you to all you guys for participating and joining us for this little game. Thanks to everyone for sending in your scenarios. Keep your eyes open on the YouTube channel when I put out a call for submissions again, and maybe you'll see your scenario featured on the next round of What's More Likely. All right, guys. That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? Now, speaking of hotly anticipated properties, the Batman 2. It's going to be shooting a little bit later this year. It's finally coming. But one question that has been lingering in the air has been, is Andy Serkis going to return as Alfred? He was a great Alfred in the first one. Loved him as Alfred in the first one. But he's a little bit busy because he's got this little film that he's directing for Peter Jackson. A Lord of the Rings film of some kind. The Hunt for Gollum. Yeah, little thing, directing a movie. It's very, very time consuming. And him and Peter Jackson have been working hard on it and all that kind of stuff. And so there's been a lot of questions about whether or not we'd even be able to see Andy Serkis come back and return as Alfred. Well, according to this new report in Deadline, it's now official. Andy Serkis is returning as Alfred in DC's The Batman 2. There's a good picture of him there. I love this guy. Here's, we've confirmed that Andy Serkis will reprise his role as Alfred Pennyworth, Bruce Wayne's butler, in Matt Reeves' follow-up, The Batman 2, which commences shooting in June. Essentially, what required solving was reconciling Serkis's production days on DC Studios' The Batman 2 with that of his next New Line film he's prepping, Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, due out on December 17th, 2027. Looks like he's going to make both work. Serkis had been doing press tour for Angel Studios' animated movie Animal Farm, which he directed. Collider got him first and asked him whether Batman 2 was in the cards. Who the man who played Smeagol telling the outlet, "I'm pretty certain it's all going to work out. Yeah, we're working on it, but I think it's looking good." Per Screen Rant, Serkis said he won't be joining them immediately, with them being Batman 2, but by the end of the year, I will be. So it sounds like it's going to be one of those situations where on a break he's got from shooting Hunt for Gollum or prepping for Hunt for Gollum, he'll probably fly out to set quick, shoot for a day or two, fly back again, shoot for a day or two. I mean, look, the reality was I think Alfred had maybe 6-7 minutes of screen time in the last Batman movie. So you can have a big presence in a movie without actually having all that much screen time. So though I'm going to guess they'll probably have him in total probably for about a week of shooting, which would probably be enough. I'll be honest with you, Rob. If you had asked me a week ago, do I think Andy Serkis will be in the new one? I probably would have guessed no. Because it is not a small thing prepping as the director of a film to prep it.
Yeah.
But I loved him in the role. And listen, they would have had to have recast because you have to have an Alfred. Like every iterations of Batman has had an iteration of Alfred that plays some form of counterbalance to that version of Batman. And I thought Andy Serkis's version of Alfred was a perfect counterbalance to the version of Bruce Wayne that we had from Robert Pattinson. So it would have been fine had they recast. It would have been fine. It would have worked, but you absolutely needed to have the character. But it's the best of both worlds if you can keep the character and have Andy Serkis back to play the role. Anyway, Rob, you hear about this news. Are you surprised? Not surprised? Is it a big deal? What do you think?
No, it doesn't surprise me because, well, one, Warner Brothers is releasing both movies, it's Batman 2 and Hunt for a Gollum. And, with a film like this, they have a schedule, and there's things like if he wanted to leave and his editors are working, obviously Peter Jackson's there, I think they could let him go to play the role, and the movie's in good hands. So it's not like I don't think that it's problematic that he stars. And by the time, I mean, I think is Hunt for Gollum's already filming, isn't it? I don't know if it's already filmed. Maybe
I don't think they're filming yet.
Then, well, they'll be. I mean, by the end of the year, he'll be done shooting, and it'll be in post. And there's so much post production that I don't think it's going to be an issue for him. I think that they'll make it work.
Yeah, if they can just cram it into his schedule and make it kind of work around him, that should work.
Yeah, because also he can work. When Peter Jackson was scoring the Two Towers, he was in London. And they decided to make the Ents attack on Isengard, which wasn't even in the movie at the time. And they were scoring the film.
Yeah.
And Peter Jackson was able to use early FaceTime and was talking to his effects team every single day while they were scoring. And he wasn't even in New Zealand. So I don't think with our communications technology, it's a problem.
I've been a big fan of Serkis for a long time. I remember having a lot of debates around his performance in the second Planet of the Apes movie, where I actually argued quite hard that he should have been I thought he should have been nominated for a Best Supporting Actor, even though he was motion capture.
Incredible.
I thought it was great. So I just want to share this picture with you. So the night I got to meet and hang out with him, I got to have a little bit to eat, have a drink with him, and hang out. Look at the idiot grin on my face.
Yeah.
Can you tell? I was like totally geeking out. Hanging out, I'm literally hanging out with him, having a drink, and Ann said, "Can I get a picture of you guys?" and snap the picture for us. But I was like,
he's a tremendously nice guy.
Oh my God, I could not believe how absolutely pleasant the guy is.
Yeah,
he's just so pleasant and so nice. I've had a chance to talk to him a couple of times, and I'm always blown away by this. Might be. I think the nicest guy I've ever met in the industry was probably Chris Pratt. But just being the most pleasant person to be around might be Andy Serkis. He was just such a sweet guy.
When I met him, because we were working on the special features for Lord of the Rings, and I'd met him, and we were at a bar, and I go, "Dude, you are awesome in 24-Hour Party People" as Joy Division's producer. And he was like, "No one remembers I was in that." And
we made him go drum on the roof.
Yeah.
And then they forgot him on the roof.
That's what we talked about. Yeah. And he's great.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Apparently now, at least John Campea's little wishes have come true. Andy Serkis will be returning to the role of Alfred for the Batman 2. There was some question about it due to the fact that he's got a little scheduling conflict with the Lord of the Rings film he's directing, but he will be back. Big deal, not a big deal, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. CinemaCon is, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to get to say these words. CinemaCon is this weekend.
It is nigh.
Or at least it's kind of getting kicked off with the pre-stuff on Sunday. And then, of course, we've got the week that follows.
Have they updated the app yet?
I got to go and take a look. Got to go take a look. Now, a little bit later this week, we will do a CinemaCon preview where we're going to go through the various presentations, the schedule, and what we're expecting and hoping to see, and speculating that we're going to see at these presentations. That's a big thing. But of more pressing urgency is the whole idea of Avengers Doomsday. You guys might remember that making its way around the chat sphere last week was some rumblings that we were going to get an Avengers Doomsday trailer sometime in the next couple of weeks. Some people believed that it was going to be yesterday. Some people said, because there were some reports of a big Disney trailer coming on Monday. And so a lot of people speculated it was going to be Avengers Doomsday. It was not. It was Devil Wears Prada 2 with their final trailer. That movie's going to be big.
It looks pretty good.
I'm not saying $1 billion film, not saying, but it's going to be big. And that movie is looking good. By the way, somebody made this image, I might have talked about before, of a picture of Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep, and Emily Blunt from Devil Wears Prada 1 20 years ago. And then right beside it, 20 years later, pictures of Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep, and Emily Blunt 20 years later in the trailer for that. They have not changed a bit in 20 years. Meryl Streep actually looks a little bit younger today than she did 20 years ago. It's like crazy unicorn blood going around. Anyway, but so obviously we did not get the Doomsday trailer, but the whispers did persist. That was going to be in the next couple of weeks. Once Monday came and went, those whispers kind of became focused on CinemaCon. And the reason that those whispers are focused on CinemaCon is because on Thursday of CinemaCon, Disney is doing a 2-hour presentation. And if you know anything about CinemaCon, when it comes to Marvel stuff, they bring the goods. They like, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that, sometimes it's the other thing, but they always bring the goods. Hell, there have even been a couple of years where they've done full screenings of upcoming movies ahead. Like I remember the one year they did a full Shang-Chi months before the movie came out. A full Shang-Chi. They showed us like the first 40 minutes of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. They've dropped lots of first looks and trailers, and they bring out the stars and all that kind of stuff. So if you hear a lot of whispers about them bringing the Doomsday trailer to CinemaCon, there's a good reason why. You also have to take into the equation this. Its Doomsday partner, dance partner, Dune, has already dropped its first trailer. Oh, and they've already started selling out theaters. Those IMAX theaters that Avengers Doomsday is not getting any of them, unless they, of course, move the date up. But, you know, their dance partner has already started their marketing. They're already started selling tickets. They're already selling out theaters, all that kind of stuff. So when you put all that together, that we are getting into the long-term range of when such a blockbuster might start its marketing campaign, with the fact that Dune, its dance partner, has already started its marketing, and you add on top of that, that it's CinemaCon. Easily, singly, the most important movie event of the year. I mean, other than an award show like the Oscars, this is it. This is the most important day. If you watched Seth Rogen's The Studio, they even talk about in The Studio that this is it. CinemaCon is it. If you want to break through, this is where you got to get everybody's attention because it's the movie theaters. For those of you who don't know, CinemaCon is not a fan event. It's not even a movie studios event. It's a movie theaters event. It's put on by Cinema United, which is the trade organization representing all the movie theater owners in the world. It's a conference for movie theater owners. And this is the time when the movie studios bring their best to sell the movie theater owners on their movies, to get the choicest screens, the most screens they can, the biggest screens they can, to try to get the movie theater owners as excited for their upcoming movie lineup as humanly possible. That's why they go all out. That's why Tom Cruise comes on stage. That's why Oprah comes on stage. That's why Scorsese comes on stage, and Glenn Powell and Zendaya and Tom Holland. That's why they all come out on stage, and they're all there because this is it. This is the event to do it. So you guys have probably heard the whispers that they're going to be doing this trailer there. I made a phone call. It wasn't a phone call. I texted to somebody who would be in the know to ask specifically, straight up, is Avengers Doomsday going to drop its first trailer at CinemaCon? And the answer may shock you. They didn't respond. Yeah. What happens with me 9 times out of 10 when I put out feelers to ask for some information, 9 times out of 10, just no response because I'm a nobody doing YouTube videos in my garage. Just another reminder of that. But that being said, I think all signs are pointing to yes. Like the constant whispers. I've talked to a couple of other YouTube pundits in the space who've been hearing these whispers as well. Again, I don't know if they're going to drop the trailer for it. I'll just say this. I'm now at the point, I've been hearing from enough people that I'm going to legitimately be surprised if they don't. I think they're dropping it. At the very least, they're going to show us like 3 or 4 minutes of it. And most importantly, I think at CinemaCon, at the presentation, what we will know definitively this coming week is if Doomsday is in fact going to move off that December 18th date.
Oh yeah.
and move to the December 11th date that Jumanji has abandoned so that they could get 1 week of IMAX screens. Because remember, as of right now, Avengers Doomsday gets no IMAX for you. No IMAX. Because all the IMAX screens are taken by Dune. That's it. It's done. So if they want IMAX screens, Jumanji 3 just left their December 11th date. It's now open. There is 1 week's worth of IMAX screenings totally up for grabs. And if Avengers Doomsday wants to move up a week to the 11th, they get those IMAX screens, which could be good for them. So we will find out whether they are or are not going to make that move this week. 100% we're going to know for sure. And I think we're going to get that trailer. I really do. And I think they're going to drop the trailer for us at CinemaCon, and then 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day later, they'll drop it online for the rest of the world. So that's what I think is coming. I don't know. I could lie to you, but I'm what's the point of lying to you? I don't know. But I think it's all pointing to that. Anyway, Rob, you are reading the tea leaves. You see the way the winds are blowing. What are some of the arguments for the belief that they're going to show us this trailer at CinemaCon? And what are maybe some of the, to play devil's advocate, arguments against them showing this trailer? And what do you ultimately think is going to happen?
Well, first of all, the CinemaCon 2026 app is live. Just so you know. You need to put in your credentials to make it work. But look, this is a convention that is for theater owners. It's for it is for the studios to say, hey, here's what we are filling your businesses up with. Here is the product that we're giving you to sell. So it is very important that each studio hypes up the rest of the year as much as they can. And we're still, we've got off to a pretty good start in 2026. Theater owners, even AMC stock is up, going into CinemaCon. So I do think this is the biggest movie. I don't think this is just the biggest movie Disney has coming out this year, Marvel. It's one of the biggest movies of all time. Avengers
That's
Doomsday.
not an exaggeration. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And the promise of this, you're coming off of the MCU is the most successful film franchise of all time by a wide margin in terms of what it's grossed and how many movies there are part of it. And this is a question mark because it is a film that's sort of based on a gimmick coming off of a slightly dysfunctional run of films. It's been really up and down with these last movies. So this is a huge risk and it's a huge question mark, but there's excitement because the Avengers movies are billion-dollar grossing films. The last one almost made $3 billion. So this is going to be the most anticipated film of the year. And you have all the theater owners gathered together. Hell yeah, they're going to show something. I would imagine it is the place because that's what the theater owners want to see. Disney knows this.
Yeah.
Disney is one of the great, they're one of the great people that make CinemaCon work. Like when you go to the Disney presentation, they usually knock it out of the park.
They go all out
every
time.
And they've got it. They've got the big brass balls this year, and they're going to show them. They're going to put them out on the table.
And by the way,
they're going to clang.
This is the first CinemaCon for brand new Disney CEO DeMauro.
Oh yeah.
And you don't think for his first CinemaCon that he doesn't want to come and make a splash? Again, that doesn't guarantee anything, but this is his first time going there. By the way, I don't know if he's physically going to be there. We have seen the CEO of Disney be there before. But even if he's not there personally, and I'm betting he will be, especially since this is his first go-round as CEO, meet all these theater heads, all that kind of stuff. And you don't think he wants to make a big splash on his first time around?
Look what they got. They got the first Star Wars movie in 7 years. They got Toy Story 5. They've got a pretty impressive slate that he gets to come out and take credit for.
Yeah, it's going to be big.
Be surprised if Robert Downey Jr. actually comes out and introduces the trailer.
I guarantee you Robert Downey Jr. will be there.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Chair Watch 2.
I wouldn't literally bring out a bunch of chairs on the stage.
Yeah, one by one.
Dude, that would be hilarious.
There's just
Chair
a conveyor
Watch
belt
2,
that goes real slow.
but they just have the chairs out and everybody fills up the chairs. Chair Watch 2, dude.
Oh my God, that would
Oh, well, they're all there to fill it up?
Yeah, they're all.
Oh, that's different.
They're all
like the curtain comes up and there's like 12 chairs.
Yeah.
And one by one, the people come out.
All
and
the
fit in
people
them.
that haven't been announced yet. Chair Watch 2, bro. They totally are gonna do
Chair
that.
Watch 2, bro.
Again,
I'm excited, dude. I'm getting goosebumps.
yeah, I think we're getting the trailer. Yeah, so I think the chances are good. I really do. Again, no guarantee. Their marketing plan may be different, but I think come CinemaCon, we're getting that trailer.
I got accused today of lying, like what we were saying about how enthusiastic we were about Avengers Doomsday. I was accused of lying, of making up things, and I'm like,
Oh, okay. Well,
I actually said that I would make stuff up on the show because I was too sick of spoilers. But no, I wasn't lying. My excitement for Avengers Doomsday is off the charts. Off the charts. I can't wait to see this movie. I hope it's 4 hours long. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I think the chances are looking actually really good that we're about to get this trailer. And if not a trailer, like maybe a full 4. Listen, trailer, then they'll release it online. But I also think we're going to get 4, 5, or 6 minutes of footage that they won't release online, which they often do for us at CinemaCon. But I think they're going to give us this trailer and then release it to the world. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that all down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your topics and questions. But before we do that, we got to do 2 things. First, we got to bid good afternoon to writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett. Great job as always, my friend. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
And of course, we're going to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Mando. Guys, we want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's video, Mando. Spring is in the air, and I gotta tell you, I am pumped to get back outside and start using the pool more. But let's be honest, warmer weather also means one thing: sweat. That's why I've been using Mando whole body deodorant, and guys, this stuff is amazing. Now look, I've tried a lot of deodorants over the years, but Mando is different because you can literally use it anywhere. I'm talking pits, chest, feet, even those hard to reach areas. And what surprised me the most is how well it actually works. So for me, what I personally love the most, it doesn't just cover up odor, it actually stops it before it starts. Mando was created by a doctor who saw how normal body odor was being misdiagnosed and mistreated, and they built this to actually solve the problem. It's clinically proven to control odor for up to 72 hours, and I can tell you from using it, it delivers. So here's the deal, guys. Don't just mask it. Mando it. Head to shopmando.com and get 20% off with my code CAMPEA. That's code CAMPEA at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide. Again, go to shopmando.com, use the code CAMPEA, and get 20% off. Support the show and stay fresh out there. Trust me, Mando's got you covered. And thank you to our friends at Mando for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over to your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
Mr. Silly is up first. Hey, guys, Riverside Local here. Thank you for all you do. Recently lost my 4-year-old pup to cancer, and your show is a nice daily distraction at work and home health. Y'all do great work. Keep it up.
I'm so sorry to hear that, man. That's terrible. You know, Ann and I lost 2 dogs that we had for over 15 years. This past year, Jonathan lost one of his dogs this year too. It's a horrible, it's a family member you're losing. It's terrible, but I'm glad the show can be here for you, man. Sorry to hear about that. All right, what's next?
We got, this is a long one. Michael Pistorius says, hey John, last week I got the privilege to do something I had wanted to do for years. My wife and I went to see Hans Zimmer live here in Portugal.
Oh,
That's
nice.
really cool. We got to hear most of the hits, but we got hit with the biggest case of the feels with The Lion King. We're originally from South Africa. I moved after we found out my wife was pregnant with our son. We've gone back to visit family, but Lisbon now feels like home and we love it. However, at the show, Hans Zimmer played Lion King and he got the original singers to come out. That's cool. He spoke about the horrific story of the country and how his affinity with the country comes from having made his start with independent movies from South Africa. And it filled me with so much joy and love for the place. I didn't realize Zimmer was South African. I called home for 30 years that I get teary-eyed. I just think about it. It was so powerful and amazing. I was just stunned and crying. I will never forget that experience, and it makes me love this thing we love called the movies. Even more, something I didn't think was possible. Thank you for helping me grow that love, something I have been able to spread to my wife, and one I hope to spread to my son and whoever comes after him. Your work has mattered. Thank you, from Lisbon.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And yeah, man, listen, I went to that concert, not the one in Portugal, but I went to the one he did here in Los Angeles last year. And same thing. When they got to the Lion King, they brought out the original singers, which just like shook me. Like when that dude comes out, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy. That's the guy. And that the whole thing, I remember when they even brought out the woman who does the voice in Dune, that whole thing. And like Dune are my wife's favorite movies, and she just started bawling. And then they start doing the music from Gladiator, and everybody starts bawling. And it was such a powerful, moving concert. Such a powerful, moving concert. It was just so good, and I'm glad you guys were able to experience that. All right, what's next?
Kylo Ken. John, I don't know what your level of interest has been in Maul Shadow Lord, but after watching the first 2 episodes, I'm very excited to see where it's going.
Next to none, to be honest with you. The one thing that has me very interested and is the reason that I'm going to watch is because the great Sam Witwer returns to do the voice of Maul again. He's fantastic as Maul, Sam. So I will check it out at some point, but I'd be lying to you if I said I was excited about it. I'm clearly not. But hopefully I love it. Hopefully I'll give it a shot and I'll fall in love with it like the way I fell in love with Rebels. All right, what's
King
next?
Shane says God of War is my favorite gaming franchise, so I'm very excited to see what they do with the show. I decided to watch Battlestar Galactica to check out Ronald D. Moore's work. It ended up being one of the best shows I've seen. This show will be great.
Battlestar Galactica is the greatest show of all time. Of course, that's a subjective opinion, but it is my opinion nonetheless. It is just the best representation of what great TV is. I love it. And that same guy, Ronald D. Moore, who's also doing like Rob's favorite show, For All Mankind, is doing God of War, which is insane. I still remember the day we found out that Ronald D. Moore was the guy who was going to be show running God of War. I mean, there's no guaranteeing any show is going to be good, but this pretty much guarantees the show is going to be awesome. I was so excited about it, and I cannot wait for it. All right, what's next?
Gopala, who says, I won't say the drama was bad, but it's not for me. Zendaya and Rob were great, and I was laughing at a lot, but it was a drag. Also, Rachel, Alana Haim, was triggering because every problem was her fault. The movie annoys me too much on purpose for me to like it.
I'm not going to lie to you. I know the critics seem to like it, and that's great. And I normally align, most people normally align with the critics. There are obviously exceptions. I really did not like the drama at all. I thought it failed on so many different levels. And you're right. Robert Pattinson's performance, insanely good. Zendaya's performance, insanely good. But yeah, you know what? I might even actually do a full spoiler review of the drama. Not that anybody will care, because not that many people went to go see it, but I really did not like the film at all. Like it just introduced all these ideas and then never explored any of them. They said, here's an idea, and then just ignored it. And here's a concept and ignored it. And then had this horrible ending that felt like, I was telling Jonathan about it. It's like the ending of the movie feels like the beginning of the third act. It's like, this should be the beginning of the third act, and it's how the movie ended. It's just, I really did not think it was a good movie. I wanted to like it. It had a few really good moments. But I thought that movie was a wasted opportunity. But anyway. All right, what's next?
All right. On to our super chats. Bri Guy says, I watched Get Smart last night for the first time in years, and it's got to be the most slept on comedy of the early 2000s era. Bill Murray's best Bill Murray cameo.
I don't know that I would go that far. I mean, listen, you're talking about Steve Carell, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Anne Hathaway, right? I liked it. Like I like that Get Smart movie.
I never saw it. I used to watch the series like in syndication as a kid, but I never saw the movie.
I forget the actor's name from the original, but he did the voice of Inspector Gadget as well. Yeah, it was a funny movie. I liked it.
Don Adams.
Yes, I liked it. But I don't know if it was like it was one of those movies I watched once or twice and enjoyed it and then moved on from it. I don't think it's one of the best of the era, but you're right. It never gets talked about. It was a fine little comedy. I thought it was pretty good. All right, what's next?
All right, we got Charles Andre, who says movies are back, Habs are back, doing good, baby.
Well, I mean, this year is definitely off to a good start. You know, we talked about yesterday that the first quarter box office results totals are now in, and the first quarter is the biggest first quarter we've had since the pandemic, the biggest since 2019. It's taken a while, and there's a lot of big films to go. We've started off the second quarter with Mario Brothers, which had a $130 million opening weekend. We've got Michael coming out. We've got Oppenheimer. We've got Toy Story. We got Minions. We got a Star Wars film. We got Doomsday. We've got Dune 3. I mean, we got a lot of big films still to come.
Odyssey, not Oppenheimer. I was like,
Odyssey, yes.
I was like, wait, is it being re-released?
Yeah, the big re-release of Oppenheimer. It's looking like it's going to be a good year. All right, what's next?
We got Mike, who says CinemaCon is the biggest reason why I'm happy you postponed your retirement. No one covers the event better than you guys. This year looks stacked.
Yeah, I think, I had decided prior to postponing the retirement that I was going to do this year's CinemaCon anyway. Ann and I had already decided, like when we thought, before we signed the sponsorship deal and all that kind of stuff, when we thought I was still retiring this past year, Ann and I had a conversation. It's like, let's still do the next CinemaCon after that, though. Let's still do the 2026 CinemaCon and still cover it. And we were going to do that regardless. But yes, when I do ultimately retire, which will be sooner rather than later, but when I do ultimately retire, whenever that will be, the thing I will probably miss most will be CinemaCons. Ann and I might still go, but going and covering CinemaCon will probably be the thing I miss most. All right, what's next?
Sam says, sorry if this has been asked, but with Project Hail Mary's success, what is the likelihood Artemis Weir's only unadapted book gets fast-tracked?
Well, I mean, Lord and Miller have already got the rights to it. Lord and Miller, who just directed Project Hail Mary, did say, by the way, did you hear one of the astronauts on the Artemis mission said, amaze, 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 when they're looking out at the Earth? That was awesome. They've already got the right. They said they're already developing it. So I think it's a certainty at this point. I mean, I don't think it's officially greenlit yet, but I think it's a certainty at this point that we are getting it. All right, what's next?
Rich with a $20 super chat.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that, man.
There's news that Paramount secured $20 billion from the Gulf.
I believe it was $24 billion.
Yeah, from the Gulf states. I thought they secured money from elsewhere, or is this them altering the terms of the deal? Is that 20+ billion used to pay down the debt, or is this a non-burger?
No. So to the best of my understanding, and this is going to cause a problem with some government agencies. Because remember, this new entity is going to control CBS News and CNN. And there are government entities that are not comfortable with Saudi Arabia and a couple of other Middle Eastern nations having some ownership control over two of the biggest news sources in America. That's another bigger discussion for another time. So what this money will be for is to go towards the purchase price. Remember, it's $111 billion. $111 billion. So that's what this money they've secured. It is not for paying down debt. It is just for the purchase price. Now, once they own it, they're going to have, I believe it's a 78 or 79. Let's go with 79 for now. A $79 billion debt, which will be, if I remember correctly, somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 billion a year in interest that they're going to have to pay on that. Think about that. Every year, almost $5 billion in interest. So yes, anyway, this 24 some odd billion dollars that they just secured from the Middle East is not for anything other than going towards the purchase price. They're going to have to deal with the debt once they own the thing.
That's interest on Warner Brothers debt, but Paramount also has debt.
No. This is the combined debt.
Combined. Okay.
It's the combined debt of the two
Either way,
entities
that's still
together is going to be
huge.
$79 billion. Yep.
All
right, what's next?
Then we got Rich Reviews again. Also, this is like a total of $40 in super
Oh,
chats.
thank you again, Rich. Appreciate that, man.
Is there a theater that you actively avoid seeing movies? For me, it's the Regal 14 in my area. When it opened in 2012, it seemed hip and new. When the Violet Crown opened in 2016 and Alamo in 2017, I pretty much cut ties with it.
Well, I mean, that doesn't sound like you're avoiding it. It just sounds like you have other theaters that you prefer.
Yeah.
Do I have any movie theaters that I actively avoid? You know what? No, I don't think so.
I don't.
I mean, I'm sure I could mention a couple of terrible movie theaters, but they're not theaters I would go to anyway because they're way out of my way or way far away from me.
Mhm.
But as far as like, is there a movie theater around me that I just won't go to that theater? I can't think of any. I don't think I've had any of those. I just usually go to what's more convenient. So, when I first moved to LA, I lived right in Hollywood, right on Sunset Boulevard. And I was a 10-minute walk up the street from the ArcLight cinemas. So I went to the ArcLight, which is awesome. And most of the other time that I've lived in California since then, I've always lived really close to an AMC theater. So I've always gone to AMC theaters. But I can't really think of anything that I avoid, to be honest. Do you have one that you could go to because it's close, but you just don't do it?
We're really spoiled here in Southern California. So, I mean, there are theaters that I actively want to go check out, but no theaters that I actively avoid, fortunately.
All right. What's next?
Rejector. Hey, John and crew, what are your guys most excited about for this year's CinemaCon presentations?
Man, I was going through the schedule the other day, and every single one of them, I think, is gangbusters. Definitely the idea of a Doomsday trailer. I definitely think Sony's going to be showing us like a good chunk of Spider-Man footage. They're definitely giving us a bunch of Spider-Verse footage. They always, like Lord Miller, always bring a ton of stuff for the upcoming Spider-Verse movies. So I know we're going to get a lot of that. I'm really stoked about that. I'd have to say right now, I am most intrigued by the Disney presentation. So, and that probably hasn't been my biggest one for a few years, but I think this year, that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. But there's a lot of really great stuff coming. I'm very stoked. All right, what's next?
Okay, we've got Dallas, who says it's so dope to see our guy from Shrinking on the Pit. Plus, he oozes charm and charisma in the just the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, the dude who plays Sean on Shrinking, who I'm going to see him tonight because he's going to be at the Paley Fest event for Shrinking. I looked it up. He's going to be there, so I'm really, really excited to see him. Yeah, Ann and I are watching the latest episode of The Pit, and just like, Sean's there. Sean from Shrinking is there. Yes, and he was really good in it. You're right. He was absolutely really good in it. All right, what's next?
We got, let me scroll up a little bit. Thager Zord says, could Michael B. Jordan be a good recast as T'Challa for a new actor?
God, no, that's the dumbest fucking idea ever. I don't know why people keep coming to that. Sorry if I sound frustrated, but I've had people for ever since, Chadwick passed away. So you go, well, Michael B. Jordan, no, that's the dumbest, stupidest idea ever. The guy who was the genocidal, homicidal maniac who tried to commit genocide. Yeah, he's the new Black man. No, terrible idea. It will not be him. 100% won't be him. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Then we got Animesh, who says, outsider's point of view, you always say that it's very difficult to write good shows, and I fully agree. But when big studios like Marvel pay thousands of dollars to their writers, shouldn't the audience at least expect something better than She-Hulk and Secret Invasion?
Did Michael Jordan ever miss a free throw? Yep. Did Michael Jordan miss game-winning at the buzzer shots? Yep. Did Michael Jordan ever miss layups? Yep. Did Kobe Bryant ever miss a dunk? Yep. Has LeBron James missed an easy, jumper? Yep. Tom Brady ever throw an incomplete pass? Yep. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And even the best. Steven Spielberg made The Terminal, the greatest filmmaker of all time.
Some say it was his best film. Not me. But.
Nobody's sane, but yeah. Listen. even the people who are the best in the world at what they do will not bat 1,000. Did She-Hulk stink? Yes. Oh. And any one of your friends who tells you, I could have done better. No, they fucking couldn't, or else they'd be making millions of dollars doing this as a living. They really couldn't. We as film fans have to understand that making a really great TV show or a really great movie, or even a good TV show and a good movie, is astronomically difficult. It's really hard. It's really difficult to create something that people like. And I think that so many people do it so well that sometimes we take that for granted. Now, should they have delivered something better than She-Hulk? Yes, in the same way that Michael Jordan should have made that free throw. But it happens. It just is. And no matter what, you can get the best people you can. You can think the script is fantastic. You can think this is great. And you know what? At the end of the day, it just might not work. And hopefully the next one you do is better. But it's just something we have to understand, that it's not, if it was easy, everybody would do it. It's not. And even when you got the best people in the world doing it, let alone people who aren't quite the best in the world, sometimes they're going to put out something that's really good, and sometimes they're going to put out something that's not. It's just the way it is. All right, what's next?
Okay, then he follows up and says, P.S. not dismissing the question of how much the writer is responsible and how much was the fault of others involved.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, right? That's the other thing that makes making a great show or movie so exponentially difficult. There is no one point of failure. There's no one single point of failure. Why didn't Michael Jordan win 13 NBA titles? Because it's not just Michael Jordan on the team.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine a team of Michael Jordans?
That'd be scary.
They just cloned him.
I mean, that's the thing. There are so many points of failure. Like, you can have a good script and have it turn into a bad show or movie. You can have a mediocre script, but in the hand of really gifted director and producers, make something really worthwhile out of it. You can do all that other stuff right and have a terrible performance or bad editing or whatever. That's the thing. There are a million points of failure, a million things that could go wrong. And that's part of the other thing that adds to it being such a monumental and unbelievable accomplishment when a studio can turn out a great show or a great movie, because it means so many things had to go right. It's really impressive.
Yeah. Someone was saying, well, that's not fair because you can't compare She-Hulk to the quality of Michael Jordan. No, what we're saying is Michael Jordan was so high up, and even he messed up. And
even he blundered. That's the point. I'm not
someone that's something that's way below that in quality. Of course, you're gonna come across.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Michael Jordan, believe it or not, missed more game-winning shots at the buzzer than he made.
Yeah,
he missed free throws. He missed layups, and he's arguably the greatest of all time. So if that can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Jeff. I can't see Disney handing MC over to Gunn because he's turning 60 on his next birthday, and he's 7 years older than Feige. I didn't realize that. I would think Disney wants someone younger to do the job.
Why?
What does it matter?
What do you think? You know who the greatest studio executive, the head of Disney Pictures that Disney has ever had?
Alan Horn.
The great Alan Horn. He was the best. Absolutely, just industry-wide, totally accepted. The best studio head ever is Alan Horn. And he was still the best when he retired a second time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how old he was when he retired his second time? 78. 78. James Gunn doesn't have to go out and perform action sequences. James Gunn doesn't have to do what you want. Somebody who knows how to tell a great story. You want somebody who knows how to work with creatives. And it would be nice if you also had somebody who knew the lore and the comics history better than anybody else. That's James Gunn. The fact that he's 60 is irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant. You put the best person for the job in that spot. You don't care about their age. Now, granted, if James Gunn right now was 75 years old and you knew you were probably going to get another 3 or 4 years out of him, yeah, maybe then. But you literally got a guy who could, again, we're all talking in theoreticals, but you've got a guy who could go in there, take over the job and still do it for 15 to 20 years. So, and again, talking about Disney, they just like having really smart people in these positions. And James Gunn is one of those guys. Listen, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I'm just telling you, it'll have nothing to do with his age. Like nothing to do with his age at all. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Okay, rewatched Oceans 11 and 12 last night. 11 is near perfect film, so tight and smooth. I don't know what happened with 12, so silly and over the top. Watching 13 for the first time. 13 I felt like was a step up from 12, but not as good as 11. What are your thoughts on 11 and 12?
I'm in full agreement with you on that. I think 11 was the best, 12 the shakiest.
Yeah.
13th was a bit of a recovery from there. I mean, so the thing that lost me really was the whole Julia Roberts thing.
Yeah. That was weird.
Like that was just weird, fourth wall, like that was not consistent with what the franchise was at that point. Like that's why I was like, really? But yeah, man, listen, I am a sucker for, actually, I think somebody's in the live chat asking about Ocean's 8. I thought Ocean's 8 was better than 12 and 13. Not as good as 11, but I straight up thought Ocean's 8 was actually a really good movie. I really enjoyed Ocean's 8. Surprisingly, I wasn't expecting a lot out of it, but I thought it was a solid film, better than 12 and 13. But yeah, to me, the best of them is still 11.
All right, here's our final one from Christopher.
All right.
It's good that for X-Men film that Thunderbolts director Jake Schreier is reuniting with one of the Thunderbolts writers for the X-Men film.
Yeah, I mean, again, both of the writers that they're bringing in, Emmy award-winning writers of shows that also won best shows at the Emmys. I mean, you just can't get much better than that. Now, does that guarantee it's going to work? Again, Michael Jordan missed free throws. Maybe it won't, but it puts them in the best position to succeed. It gives them their best chance of success. And at the end of the day, that's all you can really do. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much, pardon me, for being here and making, I got the hiccups, for being here and making our little show part of your day. A big thanks, of course, to all of you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Of course, big thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett, our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.